Alright, we're live. We're waiting for our people to come on. Waiting for our people to start rolling into our Instagram Live. If you're on the replay watch gang, it'll just be a few moments. Yo. Welcome, guys. Welcome into the third Modern Monarchist Show, in which we discuss, of course, our history story of the First Crusade. We've reached the Crusaders' first big battle, and you're not going to want to miss this, at least for the first 20 minutes. If you got to dip early, or dip at any time, come back to the replay gang on YouTube, under the Modern Monarchist. I am your host, the Modern Monarchist, and I'm really excited to present with you the first great challenge of the Crusaders. And I hope wherever you are, whether that's driving or in the car or at home or on school or on a break from work, you're able to pick up a few details on how battles are fought back in the late 1000s. You're not going to want to miss this. After the fall of Nicaea, and in which Alexius Comnenus I regained his city with trickery and allowed for the Turkish garrison to flee, the Crusaders camped 30 miles south of the city. They had a very spirited debate in which they didn't know how to go forward, because there was a lot of miles to cover in Asia Minor between Nicaea and their next greatest goal, the ancient fortress city of Antioch. And Bohemond the Norman, he had an argument he wanted to pitch. He said, "We are over 100,000 soldiers strong, and that's just combatants. They had many more non-combatants with them, women and children and peasants. We need to divide our forces, because if we do not divide our forces, we're going to be in this wilderness. We're going to be caught in the blistering sun, in the treacherous mountains, and we're going to be caught here with a massive army, and we're going to have to resort to pillaging to keep our army fed, and we do not want to have to resort to pillaging. If we resort to pillaging, we will tick off, we'll make angry the native Christians here, and perhaps the friendly Muslims who would give us food, who are chafing under Seljuk Turk control." And now Count Raymond of Toulouse, who would prove to be Bohemond's objectors throughout the later period of the First Crusade, agreed with him. But he also said, if we split up, we'll become more susceptible to attack. We don't know what lies between the leagues of Asia Minor and Antioch. We don't know how many forces are out there. However, I do agree that it would cause even worse harm if we did damage to our fellow Christians by pillaging and plundering. So it would be best to divide our forces. They took a vote on this, and all the lords agreed to do it. They divided their forces. Bohemond and his fellow Norman co-leader, Count Robert of Normandy, or Duke Robert of Normandy rather, took the lead, with their brave knight Tancred leading the very tip of the spear, the vanguard. In the back were the other lords, Godfrey of Bouillon, Athamir the bishop, and Raymond Count of Toulouse with the others, Robert of Flanders and Hugh of Vermandois, and etc. Lords of varying rank and barons of varying rank and power. As Bohemond left the last Byzantine bridge, it was like he was crossing the Rubicon River, but instead of entering an empire, he was leaving it. The ambition that he had held in check for 2 months while he was in Constantinople was starting to fill him again. While he was in Constantinople, he had hoped and prayed that his Crusader lords would hold in their ambition and rage and their desire for bloodlust, and now it was going to be sated. It was a beautiful countryside full of nice oaks and willows, and Stephen of Blois, who had taken up with him, and Duke Robert of Normandy, had decided to go falconing and hawking in the countryside with his retinue. The ladies, who were still in their finery and best dresses, had acted like it was nothing more than a field picnic and gathered around them a host of, gossiping women just like them, and they thought it was just like the court of their old castles. Bohemond spoke with Duke Robert, and Duke Robert shared nominal control of this Norman crusade, this Norman contingent of the crusade, but he respected and gave adherence to Bohemond, because Bohemond was a man not of just enormous stature, but of great prowess, and a warrior unlike any other in the crusade. And he gave deference to Bohemond. Bohemond said that they would make it to the old ruined city of Dorylaeum, which had been a Byzantine stronghold and had been destroyed by the conquests of the Seljuk Turks. They made it there around nightfall. Bohemond positioned his Norman camp near a river, with a swamp to protect one side of the camp. Everyone was having a good old time that night. It was the great calm before the storm. The peasants and young knights and soldiers were fishing in the stream. They were enjoying some good old wine that they had brought with them from Constantinople. And there was singing and rejoicing. However, scouts came back that evening, saying that they had scouted Turks a few days prior in the foothills. Not too many Turks, just a company or so. Bohemond decided that they would deal with this threat in the morning, for it was getting nighttime. And you know, at this period of history, there could be absolutely no way you could see in the night, even with torches. They would go out in the wind, and it would be a terrible, terrible blunder and a disaster. Dawn approached. It seemed just like any other morning for the Norman contingent of Crusaders. They got up, they stretched, they said their morning prayers, mass was offered. The oxen and animals in the baggage train were lowing and mooing, munching up on the last good hay before it would all go away. When suddenly scouts reported that they had sighted a large cavalry host marching in with black turbans and composite bows, swarthy-faced Turks. It was a host that they hadn't seen before in such numbers, not even at Nicaea. Leading this Turkish army, unbeknownst to them, was the Red Lion of Asia Minor, the Red Lion of the Turks, Kili Arslan, the same Kili Arslan that was given safe passage by Emperor Alexios I. Oh, how the trickery of the Byzantines may have gained them the city of Nicaea, but now it was coming back to haunt them. For the Red Lion was a fierce man, and the men he had gathered under his green banners were not just run-of-the-mill nomads, but they were veterans of a dozen conflicts over the course of the decade. Immediately there came a call to arms as bugles and clarions spread throughout the Norman camp. Bohemond and Tancred, his nephew, and Duke Robert of Flanders immediately started sorting out the fighting men-at-arms, men who could ride horses. He told the women and those who would not fight, the clergy, to go back into the camp and to draw wagons around them. You see, the saying, draw wagons or circle your wagons, goes way before the period of prairie colonization in the North American plains. It goes even to this period. Bohemond told his men to draw the wagons, and eventually all the archers and pikemen and men-at-arms who would not join in the cavalry assault of the Turks, Bohemond told them to guard the peasants and clergy and women in the camp. Without even donning their armor, many of the knights immediately were feeling extremely chivalrous, and that means they were feeling foolhardy and too brave. They went off towards the Turks feeling this way. They charged as bravely as they could, but this was no battle of Nicaea, and the Turks knew what to expect from the Crusaders. The Turks, in their light armor and light desert steppe horses, hit and run and wheeled around and confused the Crusaders, shooting down their steeds, their horses, finding weak parts of their armor if they could. And knight and man-at-arms and squire alike all fell. And then the flanks of the Crusaders were engaged in serious conflict by the Turks, who were approaching them with axes. There was all-around confusion as the Turkish axes cut through Norman steel, and men fell from their horses, whether by these axes or by metal hooks that dragged the men from their steeds. Someone says here real quick, I gotta get a better phone. I will get a better phone. I'm getting good audio on YouTube, and that's where the replays will be on. All the replays of this history will be on YouTube. So no worries, this is like an $80 Android. I'm a stingy Polak, okay? I don't like spending a lot of money on tech. But if you want to hear me better, go to YouTube. The second wave of Crusaders hit the Seljuk Turk lines. They immediately tried to help the first wave, who were suffering. They were on foot, getting trodden, getting trampled. A third wave under Bohemond, who was anxious to help his men, attacked the Turks, but a rain of thousands of arrows was felling horse and men alike. Meanwhile, back at the camp, the Turks had managed to ford the swamp that Bohemond thought would protect the men and arms and the villagers and peasants and priests. A group of harrying Turks broke into the camp, and they rode down the archers and pikemen, jumping off their horses, slaughtering peasants, stabbing priests, holding down and violating women, and then killing them afterwards. It was a scene of great panic. This was only broken up when retreating Normans from the first wave made it back to the camp and drove off the Turks, but such a damage was done. Hundreds were wounded, and hundreds more were scarred for life. It was a serious matter. Bohemond at this point ordered a retreat of his cavalry. He ordered it all the way back to the camp. And he fought so bravely still, even in this fighting retreat, that Turks dared not cross him, for he was as dangerous as a wounded wolf, howling. He made it back to the camp, and he immediately set his infantry and cavalry into a box-like formation around the camp, as the horse archers of Kili Arslan shot thousands of arrows, whistling and making the sky dark. Scores were killed and wounded. By this terrible archer barrage. The priests, however, started praying, and they started chanting. They donned their white vestments, brought up the cross and the Eucharist, and leading the hymns, convinced even the most scared woman to pick up bottles or barrels of water to give to the troops that were so in need of it, for by now the hour of battle was in its fourth, and the armor was burning their very skin. Bohemond, it was said, he drank so much, and when the water touched his armor, it sizzled, it steamed. It was very hot here, and it was much hotter than it was in Western and Central Europe. Peasants alike went to go fight and die alongside the men-at-arms and the knights. Previously, several hours before, Bohemond had sent scouts back to go to Godfrey of Bouillon and Raymond's camp, who were a day behind, he thought. A day behind. And a day was too long. A day was too long to hold back the Seljuk Turks, for matters were getting very dire. However, Godfrey and Raymond were not that far, and as tired scouts reached their lines, Raymond immediately set the fastest men he could on horses and lances. Raymond, Hugh, Godfrey, and Athemir all set out to help the beleaguered Normans and hoped to reach them as soon as they can. As the battle reached its fifth hour, the Normans were indeed in dire straits. Many resembled porcupines because of the arrows that bristled from their armor and shields. It was appearing that the Seljuk Turks were winning, but Godfrey was on his way. Immediately, around 200 to 300 knights of Godfrey's contingent and Raymond's cavalry contingent broke upon the Seljuk lines, pushed them back from Bohemond's camp, and there with mace and sword crushed and lopped the heads and bones of the Turks. The battle, however, was far from over. It was in a stalemate stage. Hugh of Vermandois, an aging man who in his face looked like he could be 60, but was a man of virile capacity, and he moved like a man of 30, set upon them with his fiercest knights. As the knights fought the Seljuk Turks and pushed their lines back, they came across the body of many fellow Crusaders. Count Robert of Paris had fallen with 40 of his best knights, in a great mound all surrounded. It was far from cinematic, however, as blood and the great matter that comes from humans when they die filled the field. It was a putrid scene. When the matter was still and up in the air, because Kili Arslan, the great Seljuk Turk commander with his green banners, was everywhere, No one knew which way the battle was going to go, until the burly Bishop Athemir, having donned armor and mitre, with sword in hand, attacked the flank and the rear of the Turk lines, and the Turks were not expecting this. He fell upon them with such savagery that the back was broken of the Turk army. Godfrey, Bohemond, Tancred, and the Duke of Normandy all pushed forward. Hugh of Vermandois, all of them, horses, pushed in upon the Seljuk Turk lines. Kili Arslan fled the field, leaving behind him thousands of dead and dying Turks, and a great camp abandoned, with gold and ornaments and armor and much needed food and supplies for the Crusaders. The battle had been won, but at such a cost. Many horses of the Crusaders had been shot under them a second and third time, and many of the greatest knights had been slain. You see, here the Crusaders had met a firm match. The heavy armored charges of the Normans and the Frankish knights had been easily repelled by the cut-and-run tactics of the Seljuk Turk people. You see, the Seljuk Turks, though, were immediately also surprised by the determination and stubbornness of these Christian knights. The Seljuks had conquered from the salt lakes of the Central Asian steppe all the way to this part of Anatolia, and they had not met a force like this. And for all their tactics and cunning, the Turks could not break the earnest sincerity and determination of the knights of God. These men of iron with such thick armor oftentimes took many arrows to kill them, and the Seljuk Turks' bows and arrows oftentimes were filled with doubt, as they took too much time to find weak links in their armor. The battle had been won, and the Christian ranks united and feasted that night, enjoying their first major struggle. Nicaea had not been a struggle as much as this. The Red Lion of the Turks, in great fear, told all the Arabs and Muslims that he could that a massive, wrathful army of the infidel had approached them and had defeated them. Muslims turned back, and the Crusaders enjoyed their loot. They enjoyed it all, for it was hard-fought and hard-won victory, and they couldn't even bury in one day all the bodies that had fallen. It was said that 5,000 Crusaders were killed that day, and 7,000 Turks, although this is widely debated. At the lowest amount, it was 4,000 Crusaders and 5,000 Turks. But still, these were in lives lost, not wounded, and fighting men, for peasants and women and priests were not counted. And if they were to be counted, their lives lost would have been more than the Turks. But however, determination and great faith in God, and Bohemond, this great leader of men, had held out until the second army could reach them. That concludes this first narrative of our overarching narrative for the many first few episodes of this show, in which we're covering the First Crusade, its tactics, its ideals, its determinations, its virtues, its flaws, its feudings, and its battles. We're going to be covering it as grimly and as thick into the very heat of the battle as we can get, but also from a bird's eye view as well. Alexius Comnenus, the Byzantine emperor, was enjoying the land that the Crusaders were gathering, but he would not enjoy it for long, for Bohemond had lost many Norman soldiers this day, and he would not suffer to lose any more unless he had gained a great city and an empire for himself and for his noble and brave supporters. The rest of the Crusaders, Count Raymond of Toulouse, and etc., were willing to do the same, because we're going to see Byzantine trickery is going to finally drive a wedge into the relations that Pope Urban II had hoped to wish would unite the two breaking parts of Christianity that had been separated since the lasting schism of 1054, which lasts to this day. This ends the Crusader period. Thank you all for joining for the main part of the show, and if you couldn't make it, you can catch this replay on YouTube under the Modern Monarchist. The link is in my Telegram, and link is in my bio as well. So please go there, find my YouTube channel. The replays have better audio and are featured with maps and great artwork, in which you can see what the Crusaders looked like and how they fought, and how their maneuvers in the Battle of Dorylaeum were. It's a very cool name, Dorylaeum. And Dorylaeum was a ruined city of the Eastern Romans. And you can imagine, when the Byzantines and the Turks, there was much seesaw fighting. And Dorylaeum must have seen many conquerors before it ever saw the white faces of the Frankish Crusaders. And certainly the Crusaders were not going to be the last encamped around its shoulders. Such is the history of this part of the world, in which we in the Northern American continent are merely babies of history, merely babies in the grand scheme of things. History throughout the West and throughout even the Middle East and the Old World is filled with a graveyard of great information that has long been rusting without anyone to look upon it, and that is why I feel that it is my duty, and I took a solemn vow, not before priest or God, but I did take a solemn vow to myself to relay to you this information, this ancient history. It's so very important. They don't teach proper history these days, and they haven't for a long time, even in good private schools. That is why in all my classes that I teach, I try to teach as much as I can. I try to give it all I got. If the teacher is more exhausted than all the students combined, you know he's doing a good job. If you'd like to hear me talk more, I'm going to be doing audible-like recordings of books, featuring not just the Crusades, but all throughout history. We're going to be delving into several different epochs. It's going to be a lot of good fun. But thank you for joining this main thing, and I look forward to going further. I look forward to going further into the Crusades, and it's not just going to be battles, guys. It's going to feature a lot of logistics. What I love about the First Crusade is that the way it's been chronicled by an unknown soldier and by Fulcher, a chronicler of Frankish origin, is that these lords come across as so human. I mentioned this in a previous episode. Bohemond is this tall Norman with blonde hair, red beard, and his laugh sounds like a threat. Sounds like a threat, that's how intimidating his laugh is. These are real humans. Duke Robert of Normandy is a lazy, relatable kind of millennial lord, if you would, and he doesn't like to even rise, he likes to party, but when push comes to shove, he fights pretty hard. Stephen of Blois, the brother of the French king, is this fairy-like coward that doesn't want to go on crusade. He just doesn't want to be shamed by not going. And we're going to see that in the letters he writes to his wife back home. Kind of writes like a fag, you know. But in his letters to his wife back home, he's going to say how difficult it is, how very tough it is. And eventually, he's going to cause a lot of damage to the Crusaders by him leaving it. It was not that he was a valued asset to the crusade. It was just because he's going to relay some information to people that could have helped them. And that's all going to be featured in the next few episodes. I really wish we had men like the Crusaders in history now. They're very much lacking. These were roughshod men. They were men who didn't bathe that much, yes, who didn't have the commodities of toilet paper or nice soap. They oftentimes died in their 50s. That was considered old. But these were men who the souls burned so brightly it illuminated out of their eyes and their face. They were able to command the respect of rabble. They were able to command the respect of their enemies because the light of Christ illuminated their life. They had so much just surrendered to the divine will of God that no matter what, they were always going to fight as if everything depended on them, but they prayed as if everything depended on God. And so they were able to push forward with their crusade despite the overwhelming odds. A great sea of infidels, of Muslims, existed all the way to Jerusalem and all around it, for hundreds of miles around. And they knew not whence they were going. For now they had Byzantine guides and they had Byzantine advisors like Titicius and Budamidas to help them. But it wouldn't last for long. It wouldn't last for long because on their way to Antioch, there's going to be things that drive them apart. As much as I would like to be fair and square to all sides and say that there's both sides to blame for the continuing distrust between the Eastern and Western churches and their adherents, the Easterners are going to do a lot of damage to the Westerners' faith in them. And it's going to be through this that the Westerners' view of them as being mischief makers and deceivers and traitors and people that rely on letters and pens and knives by night to do their bidding than rather by swords and sincerity, the Franks are going to have that view cemented. And it's not going to go away, and the blood's going to keep getting worse between them. And I really wish I could say both sides are to blame, but right now, the Easterners, their distrust and their hatred for these noble and simple and sincere spiritual knights is doing a lot of damage. It's going to do a lot of damage throughout the Crusades. And we have a lot of drama to cover. You know, this First Crusade is going to have feuding amongst the lords, but it's going to be much less than the next Crusades. Much less. This crusade, these men were so illuminated by God. It's fantastic to see it. There's this book that I'm reading right now by Harold Lamb called Men of Iron and Saints. I've read it several times, and there's so many beautiful hymns that these lords would write along the way. And they would give them to their priests, and the priests would oftentimes be on the same level of spirituality as the lords. Imagine having rulers and leaders of great religious fervor. We need that nowadays. You know, Louis IX, St. Louis IX of France, who led the doomed 7th and 8th Crusades, cut off the tongues of blasphemers. He burned thousands of copies of the Talmud that says our Lord Jesus Christ is burning in a pit of excrement, mind you. He had no compromising with the enemy, with evil. So, it's all good. We're ending our show for now. It's been a nice talk through history, and it's going to be a wonderful time every episode, 5 days a week. We're going to read some questions now from the chat and from the questions that have been asked to me in the question box. Someone says, no need for a suit for a simply Instagram live. Well, I'm doing a daily show. I'm doing 5 days a week, and we're talking history. I'm not going to show up in a tank top and gold chain like I usually do. You know, I may be a sloth, but I know how to look good on the right occasions. So no, a suit is necessary because I'm trying to build a brand image here. I'm clean, I shaved my beard, and I'm really trying to look appealing, not look like a slob. So we're going to dress well. I believe in a suit and tie image. I believe that men should dress better. We don't dress as well as we should. Now, I'm not the biggest style hog, and there's certainly people in our movement that know style so well, and they're preaching good tips on style, so I'm not going to act like I know. But all I know is that, by and large, men and women do not dress modestly, they do not dress well, especially in church, especially when talking about professional things and studious things, matters of intellectual matter. I'm not going to wear my tracksuit, and I got 3 tracksuits, 3 Adidas tracksuits now. I'm not going to wear them, okay? Not going to wear them for this. I'll wear them when I'm squatting on the side of a road, you know, chewing sunflower seeds and drinking vodka, but not now, okay? Not now. That's just the style thing, though. I like it. I got to show off the AF pin, too, always, the America First pin. But let's see what questions we got here now, because I know we got some questions at the end of the show. Oh, it's not even a question. It's just a man named Oh Fluffy says, yo! Based and clean shaven. Yeah, I took the advice and I shaved the beard. Because, I got like a red beard, and blondies get red beards sometimes, like Bowman, you know? And it's very sparse and patchy, and it just basically looks like steel wool. It looks like steel wool you'd use to scrub dishes, and so it's not worth it. I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to use that at all. I got to see how many minutes I got left on my Instagram live here. I don't want to burn off my time. Last time my stream ended. Whoa! We're only 29 minutes in. I really jumped through the history segment of the show. You guys missed the nuggets. You guys missed the great stuff in the beginning. Because I was just talking straight history. But if you want to get the history, if you want to get some epic history full of battles, bloodshed, courage, and valor, go to YouTube and watch the replays. They're very awesome with great audio. I'm going to shill them because it's my show, but I'm normally not going to shill them. Thoughts of South Africa, says Kalamunda. What do you mean, thoughts of South Africa? I love the Boer culture of South Africa. I believe the city of Orania is successful by and large. And so, you got to be more specific there. It's like saying thoughts on Russia, you know. But thoughts of South Africa, I believe South African demographics is the future of of the West in America. Everyone says that. People that speak better than I do say that. Kevin Hay says, Christianity should be united regardless of our denominations. How can we reunite regarding a common enemy like Judaeos and other heathens? You know, I'm Catholic. I believe that all have to bend to us. We're dogmatic. We're principled. If you want to talk Catholicism on a separate show, on a separate time, at a certain hour, I'll do it. But, you know, for now, I'm a Catholic, and I believe that all should become Catholic. All need to be united under the Pope, as it used to be. We were stronger when we were united. It's only when people started flipping out in the 1500s, and the Eastern Rite that started flipping out in the 1000s, where the power of Christianity started getting weakened because people were leaving the faith. Population centers were leaving the faith. And what happened to the Eastern Orthodox? They got kicked around by Islam. They got kicked around by the Mongols. What happened to the Protestants? Well, they started allowing usury and became the very first nations to start having major Jewish influence. No context. Red Eagle says, stream looks better with your computer light on. You know, I'm thinking about it. I might do it. I'm just trying new backgrounds. With the computer light on, it really it kind of blinds me, it distracts me. And I'm really white from winter. There's no sun in the northern part of the country during the winter, where I live. And I don't get any melanin, I don't get any vitamin D, and so it's like I look like a ghost, and I'm blinded. So, if you guys like this, let me know if you like the background like this over a white, opaque light. Let me know in the comments. If this is cozy for you, if you want me to change things, please let me know. But for now, we're going with this, because it's so much easier for me to concentrate. I don't get nervous, or I don't lose my steam. Camera quality is S, says Tennessee Groiper. Yeah, we're working on camera quality. I got an Android. We're gonna get it better. We're gonna get it better. But for now, it's about content, and it's about what I'm saying. It's about the cozy atmosphere. It's about learning history. It's about learning good standards on music and books. All the replays are going up on YouTube with better quality. How many times do I have to say this? I'll say it as many times as I have to. Yo, based Orania, says Calamunda. Yeah, Orania is pretty cool. What about Rhodesia? Rhodesia, I mean, isn't that so much trodden over already? Obviously, if I had lived at that time, I would have supported it. I loved hearing about the mercenaries, the Americans that went to help Rhodesia. And it's interesting. It's really good history. If you want to know good sources on Rhodesian history that are still being made right now, you're going to want to go to Recapturing Memories on YouTube and look up all these veterans that are in their late 60s, early 70s that are telling their stories. Beautiful history. So look that up. Warmer lighting is much nicer than just plain white. I agree. I'm going to get some rich lighting around me. I really want to show off the Christmas lights, and you can't see them right now. But the lighting's getting better. I'm just on a shoestring budget, and it's hard to do, you know. I'm basically just beginning this order. I'm beginning this mission. I've had an awakening where I wanted to just preach history. Because we have a lot of people in this movement, and I love to game. I really love to game. Like Autistic Gaming, Civ 5, Mountain Blade, Warband, GTA 5, a lot of strategy games, Stronghold Crusader. But there's a lot of better gamers than myself. And they got better technology, and they got better equipment, so I'm not going to do that. There's also a lot of people that talk politics. They're able to keep up on the daily trends. For me, it's a little hard. I'm kind of a tender-hearted guy, and these merit badge milestones that I would be gaining by counting bodies in the metaphorical and physical genocide that we're going through just doesn't make me happy, and I get really depressed. And so I'll do bad news occasionally, but what we really need is enrichment. We need enrichment. Debates are getting useless at this point. All they are is just, basically gaining a few followers here and there. But what is important is enriching our talents and making ourselves smarter and making ourselves more spiritual. Now, I'm not the most religious guy. I'm trying not to swear as much, and I'm trying not to make crude jokes as much, and it's becoming better. But, what I can say is spiritual advice is at least read 15 minutes of a spiritual book before you go to bed. And then to help yourselves intellectually, read 15 minutes of a non-fiction book before you go to bed, preferably something of a higher matter. Your brain will hurt. When it hurts, you know you're gaining. You know you're gaining gray matter up here. Someone says, you're well dressed. Good optics. It is good optics. I like being well dressed. It's important for me to present good image. Calamunda says, thoughts of Pastor Stephen Anderson. I don't know Pastor Stephen Anderson. Tennessee Groiper says, we know we're right. No need for debates. Yeah, I don't even need to debate anybody in the movement. I came into the movement to unite with people on things that we have in common ground. That's what I do. I didn't come here to cause debates. You know, here's the deal. We're not in control of anything, regionally, locally, or nationally. There will be a time when we can debate amongst ourselves if we ever gain control of any of those things I mentioned. But for now, we need to push against a common enemy. Pray the rosary 3 times a day, friend. I need to. Right now, I'm just on 1. H234 Jiffy says, thoughts on Spexo. Spexo? I like Spexo. He really is. He's shown me respect, and I've shown him respect. And I believe he brings people to the faith. He had a debate with Beardson. I thought they both did well. I just think debating upon such matters right now is not very beneficial for the movement. If you want to, I just don't care enough, you know? I'm a traditional Catholic, and I believe that it's, you know, I insult my enemies, but I don't insult my enemies or my friends in America first. I really don't. I explain myself pretty well on Protestants and on Orthodox. There's Orthodox and Protestants in the movement. I wish they would convert. But I'm not going to go up to them or go on platforms that are adjacent to them and say, hey, you know, these people are utter trash and they're sinful. Now, my feelings are my feelings inside. But that's not the best way to evangelize, in my opinion. But I will spam Catholicism 24/7. I will never do ecumenism. We can unite as Christians on matters of political import and on matters of non-religious ideas of morality. But when it comes to liturgy, when it comes to dogma, there's no need for ecumenism. Ecumenism is a globalist scheme, it's a Jewish scheme, and it's not good. I believe in one religion and one religion's supremacy. Calamunda says, I am white, but adopted by Indians. I think they are more based than whites. I can say racial slurs, sexist slurs, and homophobic slurs, and they believe light skin is better. Well, Calamunda, Indians have a remarkably low blood level tolerance for alcohol, and it shows. In fact, National Geographic did a little documentary or news where the only completely intoxicated town in America are Indians. Also a lot of corruption within their own governments on the reservation. Not just whites damaging them, but there's corruption on the reservation as well. I have a lot of, well, let me just say this, I'm not going to dox anybody, but I have a lot of Mexican and native friends. Oh, Indian as in dot. That shows you what part of the country. I've never seen Indians with dots, like the I've never seen those Indians before. I've only experienced the how. Hello, white man. You came and took our land. This was our land. You took it. We buffalo rain danced. Ooh. Those are the Indians I've seen. I've never come across the red dot Indian. So you're a red dot Indian. Okay. Yeah. You know, this is my idea. You know, you guys can make your country great, but please, we don't need any more foreign minority immigrants. And I don't mean that in a rude way. It's just like, I respect your guys' nationalism, if you will. And I respect that you guys are breaking globo homo in the best way that you can. It's just, when people of completely different values and backgrounds start mixing, regardless of some similarities they share, there's bound to be bloodshed. But you're alright. You're alright, man. I don't mind Indians. Beardson won the debate. You know, I don't know. I didn't finish it all the way, but you know, I like Beardson. I do like Beardson. He's funny. Might get a lot of flack for that. I don't care. I view him as a friend, and you know, I know he has my back and I have his. That's the way it works in this movement. I'm loyal. I'm loyal to a fault, my friends. And you know, if that's a fault of mine, then it's a fault of mine. But I'd rather be loyal to my friends than disloyal to them ever. You know, because once a traitor, always a traitor, so to say. Let's see what else. Hello, technical support? Yeah, technical support. Hello. Hello, sir. What? No, this is a telemarketer. No, ma'am, did you enjoy this TV? Yeah, Indians. I have to wear a turban. You wear a turban? Well, let me tell you something. The Crusader lords, once they settled in the Holy Land in the kingdom of Outremer, they started wearing turbans and the robes of the native people because it was more comfortable in that climate. But if you're doing it in like a North American climate, what the heck are you doing? You know, if you're doing it in a European climate, what the heck are you doing? You know. But if you're in that hot area with the sands and the snakes and the little worm guys with their lutes, playing the lutes, then then wear your turbans, wear your soft robes. Frederick II of the Holy Roman Empire brought Middle Eastern luxuries to Europe, and it had a net negative effect on his empire. It gave a lot of debauchery, kind of hurt the stoicism of the Germans. Embrace Traditional America says, where do you get the AF lapel pin? I got the AF lapel pin from Quack. Quack's a good guy. I know Quack. So you can talk to him wherever you are. If you meet me at AFPAC, which I will be going to, I will give you a pin. I'll bring some pins. And certainly Quack will bring some too, I hope. Let's see here. How old are you? Not going to say. The white man is based. Yeah, for the most part. What else here? No problem. White man colonialism is based. Yeah, white man colonialism is based outside of Belgium. Belgium had some pretty brutal stuff. You know, there's bound to be abuses everywhere. And, we can't just say because we're pretty awesome that we didn't do anything wrong. However, do not take me for someone that is a cuck about race. I love my people, and I love my faith, and I think we're the best. We are the best. But all I'm saying is just because we come from a continent doesn't make us free of committing any sin. That's all I'm getting at. Belgium did a lot of genocide in the Congo. Legit genocide, torturing people in the Congo. But like the rest of the African colonization, brought order, killed disease, ended paganism. Like the English, however, they were Protestants, but they brought civilization. The Germans did well, the French did well. I support the French occupation of Algeria, all of this. So, it's just, I don't support torturing anyone, whether they're white or black. It's just, come on, let's be honest here. But that's what Belgium did. And I think Belgium's getting punished by God, just like the rest of Europe. I don't think they're getting punished for the sins of colonialism. That's a fake and gay thing. No, don't all people do that? No. The British or the French or the Germans never practiced a brutality. Not even close to the level of the Belgians. So no. But Europe is being punished for their lack of religion, not for colonialism. If anything, they would be blessed by bringing colonialism. But they're getting punished for their loss of faith. They're getting punished for not having any children, for denying the natural rights of marriage and the procreation. Very sad. But that's that. I believe many European ethnicities will be wiped off the face of the earth. They'll be wiped away, like the Swedish, the Dutch, the Belgians. Central and Eastern Europe might do better. But the West is in great peril right now. It's in great peril not only with demographics, but spiritually and morally. And you cannot have good demographics without having a spiritual and moral nation. Because when you care for your soul, you're going to care about those around you. And when you have extreme charity and true charity, you'll realize that you have to care for your family. And outside of your immediate family, your greater family are people that speak the same language and look similarly. And God, when He said love your neighbor, didn't just mean you should allow yourself to let in all types of foreign hordes. It's not true. God wants all people to exist together. The only thing that unites us is our souls. We share a common soul. And we should all share a common religion. Doesn't mean we should share a common home. Doesn't mean you should let in a bunch of Mexican immigrants into your penthouse. Doesn't mean you should let in a bunch of people that cause extremely high crime and a religion that might be the same as yours, but they don't live it. Don't let them in. All European countries that had colonies are the ones being screwed. Southern and Eastern Europe is fine. Southern and Eastern Europe is not really fine. Greece is getting bombarded with Turkish propaganda and Turkish assailants. Pray for Greece. Pray for Greece. They're in a lot of trouble. The Balkans are in a worse state than we think they are. It's just they have war criminals still around, and they don't like gay people for the most part, which is based. But that's not going to save their nations. You know, what will save their nations is overthrowing the European Union, setting up defenses against the Ottoman Empire, and building a coalition based on what they share rather than how they're different. Because love them or hate them, the nations of the Balkans are they're going to kill each other eventually, unless there's a common love of faith. So, yeah, that's that. That's Yugoslavia. That's Southern and Eastern Europe. I do believe that like Belarus is just like a outpost of Russia. Poland is doing well, but Poland will not be doing well much longer because the faith is weakening. I was there for quite a while this year. Traveled the whole country, and I talked to people, and they say, you know, it might be another generation or two, but the faith there is weakening excessively because of Vatican II's erroneous effect on them. They're starting to realize that, the Polish people. They're starting to realize that modernism is not good, that perhaps portraying Christ as a hunk of metal on a cross that looks like a chain link fence, and then having weird colors and weird hymns is not good for the faith. Perhaps doing away with all the old traditions is not good for the faith. So, I don't think Poland will be destroyed by Russia. Poland will be destroyed by America. I believe Central and Eastern Europe will be carpet bombed by bombers with the gay, black, trans flag on them. Whether that's true literally, it'll be true metaphorically. Just like how Clinton bombed good people in the late 90s in Europe. It'll happen again. It'll happen again in worse cases, I believe, in the next, decades. We're going to end soon. We're going to answer a few more. Kevin Hay says, people turning away from God due to people not reading the Bible. And yet, too, don't you think Catholics are also falling away from God? Yes, they are. Everyone's falling away from God. Everyone is. Everyone is. People that are outside of the Catholic faith are fallen away from God. People that are in the faith and are not living it are falling, okay? So if they're in the state of mortal sin as a Catholic, I believe, you're falling. And if you die in that state of grace, you've fallen. Okay, anything else? Let me go check my questions one more time. We've had a nice time here. I really ran through the history segment of the show. Andrew Anglin is based. Thank you for that. I just read that in chat. This is going to go up on YouTube, guys, with better audio and maps and history graphs for you to see. For the first 25 minutes of the show, the epic battle of Dorylaeum. With that being said, have a wonderful night, guys. Have a wonderful day. And thank you for joining. Thanks for interacting in the chat. Please share and tell if you like this format. There's going to be guests on Friday. We're letting people to talk. Respectful people. Trolls will be very quickly banned and never allowed on ever again. And we're going to have some good people on. So share, like, and go to my YouTube and share that too. We're just merely trying to talk about things that are near and dear to my heart, and I know are near and dear to all of yours. It just takes a little scratching and a little discovering to discover that. Well, that being said, have a wonderful night. God bless you. Modern Monarchist, signing out.